A session of the UN Security Council on Monday after Russia announced its recognition of the two breakaway regions of Ukraine. Most nations played the parts you might expect. The Western nations condemned the decision to greater or lesser degrees. China and also India called for restraint on all sides. But I found the most interesting speech to be from Kenya's envoy to the UN, Martin Kimani.
Kenya and almost every African country was birthed by the ending of empire. Our borders were not of our own drawing. They were drawn in the distant colonial metropoles of London, Paris, and Lisbon, with no regard for the ancient nations that they cleaved apart. Today, across the border of every single African country live our countrymen with whom we share deep historical, cultural, and linguistic bonds. At independence, had we chosen to pursue states on the basis of ethnic, racial, or religious homogeneity, we would still be waging bloody wars these many decades later. Instead, we agreed that we would settle for the borders that we inherited, but we would still pursue continental political, economic, and legal integration. Rather than form nations that looked ever backwards into history with a dangerous nostalgia, we chose to look forward to a greatness none of our many nations and peoples had ever known.
I asked him to come on GPS to talk about the sentiments he shared. Ambassador, welcome on the show.
Thank you very much, Fareed. It's a pleasure being here.
What you described as that moment after decolonization in Africa, when all the countries of Africa faced this reality that their borders were all arbitrary. There were all kinds of groups left, if you will, on one side or the other of the border. Many people wished they could be reunited. That was a very real feeling in Africa in the 50s, right? And there were people saying, why don't we start trying to redraw these borders?
Exactly. In the 50s and 60s, Africans had to make a decision because the borders of the countries that we were in had been drawn up as far back as the Berlin Conference in the 1880s, and we had not had a seat at the table at that time. So at the point of independence, we had to decide, was decolonization resetting the clock to the time before colonization, or were we going to march forward into new political dispensations with a new idea of our identity, with a new idea of nations forged from colonial realities, but joined together by commonalities of culture and interests. And we took the latter path, and we then came and joined the United Nations, understanding that one of the cornerstones of our sovereignty and independence was the respect for territorial integrity. And you will see that at that beginning, in those first few years of independence, we could not have taken our independence and respect for our territorial integrity and sovereignty for granted, because we were emerging from empires that by definition had abused our sovereignty in turning us into colonies.
And in those first years and right up to the present, the fact that you have kept to these borders has not been easy. There have been conflicts. There have been tribes that have kind of tried to, in various ways, launch cross-border insurgencies in support of their brethren in various places, right? So, I mean, you've paid a price for maintaining these borders.
Correct. The Organization of African Unity, right in the 60s, we agreed as a community to respect each other's borders. But this was easier said than done, because on either side of the border, you have people who have very common cultural, political, religious characteristics. They are one people, but who are now citizens of different countries. And once in a while, the threat of irredentism has risen in Africa with extreme amount of damage to our security.
You also talked very eloquently at the latter half of your speech about the dangers this poses, because the UN system rests on the idea of respecting borders, of respecting sovereignty. The post-1945 dispensation has been that no borders are changed by force. Are you worried that the UN system, that these values of the post-1945 world are under threat, are weakening, are eroding?
Kenya is tremendously worried, Fareed. When I spoke about multilateralism being on its deathbed, and I think that was not being melodramatic. The fact of the matter is, powerful countries, including members of the Security Council, over the last 2 decades or so, have chosen to take unilateral actions that fly directly in the face of this core tenet of the international system we live in. And now understand that the countries in the Security Council, and especially the Permanent Five, were there during the formation of the rules-based order that we joined. Kenya was not a member of the Security Council or of the United Nations when it was formed. So we voluntarily adopted those rules, and we live by them. And we depend on them to make sure that the world we live in is not a world where the powerful can trample over weaker states at will. And I like to think of the multilateral system like an insurance scheme, which you pay in terms of trust, because at the end of the day, you will need the instruments we have forged together. Today, Ukraine needs them. Tomorrow, it may be Kenya that needs them. And so we need to come together to protect our system, our United Nations.
Mr. Ambassador, pleasure to have you on. That was a very eloquent, important speech.
Thank you, Fareed. It's a pleasure seeing you. Thank you very much.